Hello, good morning. It's, Thursday the 1st of July. We're halfway through the year. And if you've got this far, well, you've made it. And yes, we've got an exciting 6 months to go. Just like this show, Nick, an exciting show lined up this morning. A fabulous guest coming on, a special guest this week. We just have the one guest that's going to educate us, make it entertaining and share some fun with us as well. And I'm back in the UK. I brought the sun back as well, back here in sunny Blighty. So Nick, morning. How is it?
Morning, mate. Welcome back. And no pressure on our lovely guest. This sets the tone, doesn't it? You know, if there's two guests on each week, you think, I'm only a kind of a B level guest, but the one guest must clearly be an A level. Welcome back to the UK, my friend. I know it's been a massive journey across continents. Well, a few countries. And thank you very much for bringing the sun back. It's been a week of travel. I've been up to Bristol this week, one of the very few kind of team events that I went to, which really good to be in an environment again where there's other people and you're working creatively. But it did take some getting used to. You know, everybody was kind of out of practice of how to kind of interact and relax around each other. Didn't help that every time you get up, you've got to put your mask on, and you know everything's very formal and one-way systems. But it was good, but took some getting used to.
So was it back live on stage, Nick? Was it a speaking gig, or were you kind of more interactive in the room and just part of what was happening?
It was facilitating really healthy conversations, team kind of looking at the next, what's left of the financial year. And planning ahead of what that needs to look like, what we need to do, what we as a team need to be to make that happen. Yeah, which is really cool. I thrive on it and very excited. And thank you very much, team. It was great fun in Bristol. Thanks for looking after us.
Yeah, excellent. Now, I was going to ask if it was live on stage, did you wear your slippers? Or did you actually put some shoes on your feet this time round? Nick and I, just for people going, slippers, what's he going on about? Nick and I have pledged that when we get our first speaking gig live back in the room on stage, that we're going to do it wearing our slippers, because I spent quite a lot of the last 18, 19 months sitting behind a screen doing and talking and doing the conversation, wearing my flip-flops and my slippers when it was colder during the winter months. So we've said, first gig, live on stage, wearing the slippers, and I'm going to go for the big Mickey Mouse ones, you know, so they really stand out. Not that I have them. I'm going to go and buy them specially, I think.
Just the one gig then, just the one gig coming up for us, my friend. Won't get any others, but that's fine. That's fine. You know, you can't please everybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we've got a really great show, and we are going through this rebranding process. For those that have been tuning in over the last several weeks, when we originally launched, we launched under the brand of Uni, which is the University of Enterprise and Entrepreneurs, and it was all about kind of educating and sharing, and our guests coming on and talking about what they do, why they do it, how they help people, what the solutions they provide, and that's what we love about this show. It's not just, you know, we love the conversation. That's what it's all about. But we love bringing our guests on to share their knowledge and their skills and their expertise. We're not quite there through the rebranding yet. As you can see, we're still under Uni, which is still going to remain. It's still going to be our business show brand. But we are transitioning into Chatbox Productions, which is launching very, very soon. We was hoping that we'd be under the new brand as of today, but we're going to probably have to wait another week or two. There's lots to do for those that have set up a business for the first time. You'll know there's lots of bits of the jigsaws to slot together, and you know, we're not. This is not new to us, is it, Nick? This is not our first business, but with what's going on in the world and so many other things to, you know, prepare for and practice and get organised, we're just a smidgen behind on the official launch.
We're just evolving, mate. We're evolving. Evolution takes time, right? It's not a let's say it's not a smooth process. It's kind of a bit kind of zigzag. It's fine. You know, Chatbox is here. It's in our DNA already. And the branding and everything else will follow.
Yeah,
don't panic. It'll be awesome when it comes.
In fact, actually, if you're out there and you've got some ideas for Chatbox Productions and what you'd like to see, then let us know. We are going to be carrying on the Breakfast Business Show every Thursday from 8 a.m. And we've got the late night show, which is going to be coming too, which is going to be super fun because we're going to just push the boundaries that little bit further and grow up the conversation and make it a little bit more, I don't know, how can I put it? Expletive, maybe? We have to be careful, obviously, what we're screaming live around the world, but we're going to just kind of mix it up a little bit, make it a little bit more entertaining where we can, and talk about some subjects, maybe a little bit more taboo and things that we'd typically brush underneath the carpet.
Sounds edgy, my friend. I like it. It's courageous. That's the, I think one of the things I love about business generally, about life really, is those people that are courageous. One of the reasons I'm delighted to have our special guest today, because a lot of the stuff that kind of he has done, a lot of people would look and say that's courageous. That's courageous action. That's courageous thinking. I don't work with teams or organizations anymore that aren't courageous because life's too short and there is no point. So the more courage organizations show, the more fun generally we have. And what a great show we have. Come on, mate. Well, we've got so much to talk about. What's on your mind? What's on your radar this week?
Well, firstly, if you're tuning in, wherever you're watching us, whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching us on LinkedIn, because we're now streaming across LinkedIn live as well. We have our LinkedIn license and the technology is working for us. Or maybe you're watching us on YouTube. Remember, we're here. If you've got a shout out you want us to put up there on the screen and share with the world, let us know. Just like Donna's done this morning. Good morning, Donna. Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us again. So if you want to tell us a bit about your business, maybe you want to come on the show in one of our future episodes. Or maybe you want to be a bit more daring and join us on the late night show. Let us know. Pop it in the chat. Let us know where you are, where you're watching from, what you're up to, what you're having for breakfast. Are you on Cocoa Pops or you're a bit more grown up and going for the Weetabix or shredded wheat? Let us know what your fancy is. But what's on my mind? Well, we're going to bring on our special guest in a short while. But before we do, we saw this in the news. And some of you probably love these. These are they're M&Ms. These are the chocolate flavored ones, but of course you can get them in peanut, and I think there's caramel ones as well. But there's nothing unusual about this particular type of confectionery until one individual, Will Coltbill, decided that there was a world record to be broken. Now, this was kind of stood out, and it was a little bit different, and this is why we're sharing this, because I'm going to go and buy some M&Ms later on today to see if I can break that world record. I'm going to have to film it. It won't be official if I can. And what do you think the record is, Nick, for stacking M&Ms on top of each other to make the largest tower you possibly can?
Right, mate, stacking M&Ms on top of each other. Okay, Guinness Book of Records. I'm surprised the Guinness Book of Records isn't this fat, right? Because there seems to be a record for everything. Sounds pretty easy, doesn't it? Right, everyone can grab some M&Ms and start stacking them. Sounds pretty easy. Okay, and hopefully people at home thinking, yeah, I can do this. I've got this nailed. Tell us, man. Fill us in. What's the world record?
I wonder what our audience are thinking. Rhetorical question, or you can put the answer in the chat box if you like. So I'm going to show a 30-second clip, and Nick and I are going to kind of narrate around this. It's going to appear in the middle of the screen. This is Will Coltbill building his M&M tower, and let's see how it went.
All right, this is going to be harder than I first thought. That's quite good. Four. Oh no. No. Oh, 5 M&Ms. 5 M&Ms.
5 M&Ms is the world record. It was previously 4, and it was held by 2 individuals, one based in Sydney, Australia, and he cracked it. He smashed it and got 5, and that's the world record. And I just think this is an easy world record to beat, isn't it? All I got to do is
do it live on the show, man.
Do you know what? Next week, that's what we could do, isn't it? We could stack and see who could get the biggest stack throughout the show.
We're trying to generate bigger audiences, mate. Stacking M&Ms live on a breakfast show. Not sure it's the crowd puller we think it is. But yeah, 5 seems easy, right? And like a lot of things in business, okay, seems easy, turns out to be a bit more complex than you first thought. Or, ironically, a lot of stuff in business on the outside seems really difficult. Turns out, ain't that difficult at all. You just got to get on with it and make it happen. So I'm liking the M&M analogy. It works for me for business. Sometimes much harder than you think it's going to be. 5, come on, that looks easy enough. But sometimes, actually, it's just as long as you get on with it, much easier, much easier. And I know our special guest has approached stuff that some would say, no, you can't do that, too difficult, and they've just got on with it and made it work. So yeah, loads of stuff to talk about.
So it leads us pretty neatly in, Nick. Who is our special guest this week? Let's get them on. Let's bring them on. They're sitting there patient in the back room, in the green room, waiting to come on to share their journey, their story, and excite the world. So who have we got this week? Because this is a big one, isn't it?
Well, yeah, no pressure on our lovely guest. Yeah, just an awesome, fun, busy character, massively courageous, changing the world day by day. He may not agree, but I reckon he will. Doing amazing things here, there, and everywhere. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's have some serious and fun conversations with our special guest, Mr. Jonny Tooze.
Good morning,
Hi guys. Good morning. How you doing?
Hello, my friend.
Hi, David. How are you? I can't wait to meet this special guest. He sounds absolutely awesome. When's he coming on?
Did we forget to tell you that part that you are today,
What?
Jonny, our special guest, live in the house.
He does sound
I'm-
great, though, doesn't he?
Oh.
He sounds brilliant, this Jonny Tooze guy.
Yeah, I don't know who he is, but yeah, I know this M&M things, by the way, guys. Honestly, I couldn't do more than about 2, I think, because I'll get bored in 5 seconds, just eat a lot. So it just wouldn't work for me in the slightest. I'm sorry about that. So yeah,
Yeah, I think we need to be careful. We might have to cut away from David stacking M&Ms next week on the show. So, mate, have you always kind of approached business with kind of joy in your heart? Is this wherever you go, this is the authentic version of you, or is there a serious side to this?
yeah, I think there is a serious side. I mean, I am full of joy and energy and excitement. And I've been like that since I was a kid, which I still am, really. And I think that's part of the part of business, really, is having that childish excitement, you know, because the older you get, the more considered you get, the more you self-exclude from things, and you know, and a kid doesn't, they just throw themselves into it. And I think that childish mentality has always stuck with me, really. So it's just been my life, to be honest. So yeah, energy is always been there. I think I remember one of the first business books I ever read was Think and Grow Rich, right? And you know, that book's all about getting outside yourself, you know, getting outside your thoughts and getting outside your emotions and just thinking a little bit bigger. And that's what really made a difference to me. It was just, you know, if you just want to do something, you do it, right? And that's kind of been the burning desire that I've had my entire life, pretty much, when it comes to business. So that's it.
So what does the journey look like? Because you started pretty young with business. Yeah, you didn't hang around.
Yeah.
And it's just gone from strength to strength. Give us a glimpse of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, it really started while I was doing my A-levels, actually. I mean, school for me was a bit, well, it was just a bit of a laugh, really. I mean, the most exciting thing about school was probably the opposite sex, if I'm honest, and socialising and having fun. I managed to get really good GCSEs. I didn't really do any revision for them, if I'm honest. Didn't work that hard. And then went on to A-levels. And I kind of got to a point with my A-levels where I realised that while I really enjoyed the subjects I was studying, my heart really was in business and technology. And actually, I put it down to a business studies teacher that I had doing my GCSEs, who was so inspiring. And he really gave me a kind of buzz around it, around the theory as well as the kind of ambition. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to really get into business and particularly technology. I was coding as a kid. My dad bought me a ZX Spectrum 128K,
Nice.
with a disk drive. It was very modern. And so I was coding as a kid, and buying magazines, coding the basic and from the back of magazines and stuff like that. So I always had kind of technology and digital in my blood. So I left school, did an A-level in computer science at night school. I got a U for that, actually, which I thought meant unbelievable, but I found out it was ungraded. I'm not sure how that happened, but it might have been something to do with not turning up to the exams or something. But I didn't care. By that point, I was already in the industry and working, and taught myself how to program. I worked in an internet cafe, actually. It was the second internet cafe in the UK. Shows my age all of a sudden, doesn't it? While I was working at the cafe, I would walk to work every day, and I would read books on programming and the architecture of the internet, and stories about different startups. And it was just after the .com boom, so there was a lot of stories, right? And I got kind of really hooked. And so while I wasn't doing anything in the cafe, I was programming, I was building websites, starting little ventures and things like that. One thing led to another, and before I know it, I'm working in an agency. I started two businesses there at 17 and 18, and then kind of went on from an agency. I went into the corporate world because I really was kind of like, this is, just for me personally, I think having sort of global blue chip experience was just an incredible step. And I loved it, actually. And that was also in a mobile company. So it's Panasonic Mobile that I worked in, which was fantastic. And it was the early stages of mobile taking off, right? Where we were sort of coming up with words like content is king. And I was in a content team, actually. So it was so good to be able to be in that early world. The very early iPhones were coming out, and it was really exciting, really. So yeah, I went from there. But I'd started the business by then. I started lab by then. And actually, I was making a lot more money out of that than I was out of my day job. So you kind of, have a little bit of an and ah. And then I got offered a job by the CMO of Panasonic, Panasonic Europe, to actually go and work for him to run digital for Europe. And I was 20 or 21 at the time. And you know what? It was the biggest compliment ever. But also, it was all I needed to basically get me out of that, that sort of imposter syndrome. Young, youthful, lack of confidence, and I just thought, do you know what, actually, I know what I'm doing here, and that just set me off, really, building my own agency.
So how was your maths when you was at school? Because Nigel Brumpton joined the show, and he's telling us, I haven't gone and checked this, but I'm sure Nigel's right. Good morning, Nigel. To stack 6 M&Ms is a 17% increase on 5. So that's an interesting stat. But you talk about school, Jonny. I think most of us probably did, it's kind of Marmite. You either loved school or you hated school. It was one of the other, or you just got through it. You went on to do A-levels. Do you feel that school was really the grounding? Because I ask this question to quite a lot of people who have gone on to be super successful and enjoy what they do. And I do believe it starts from that school age. I love school, and I did tech, and that's my background is technology. Do you think that was the building blocks, the kind of grounding that you needed to get you where you are today? Or do you think if you were mucking around at school all day, every day, and didn't enjoy it, do you think you'd be where you are now?
Maybe. I mean, to be honest, my entrepreneurial spirit started way before school. My mum always loves telling this story whenever she had friends around or something like that. She always tells this story about when I was really, really young. And we had a conker tree outside our house. And she had a knock on the door from a neighbour one day. And the neighbour said, "Oh, I just found your son outside. He was trying to flog me conkers." And what I'd done is I'd managed to go. I couldn't write at the time, so I asked my brother, who could write, to write in chalk on the wall outside our house, big conkers 2p, small conkers 1p. So I was already employing people at that point and trying to shift a profit. So I mean, but it's been the same. I've always had that spirit, but it went through school as well. I was absolutely in the same mindset the whole way through. It's just me. It's just absolutely my core. Where it came from, I have no idea. I've always tried to unpack it. Maybe I heard my parents talking about money one day or something like that, and it triggered some fear in me. God knows. But I haven't been able to work it out. But yeah, it's been like that. And school itself, I loved it. I actually really enjoy most subjects, actually, and I did enjoy most subjects. I mainly enjoyed having fun and socializing with my friends, to be honest, and learning in other ways. And I was quite clever about how I got through school. Classic entrepreneur, like, you know, always taking the easy route. You know, if there's an easy route, take it. And so I did, and it was good. You know, I did put a lot of effort into you know, winning friends and influencing teachers, I should say, and became really good friends with a lot of teachers. So I never got in trouble, which was great. And yeah, school was a weird one for me. It wasn't sort of very typical, but I was lucky enough to go to a very good school. Had 2,000 pupils as well, so it's massive and sociable, which I really loved. But yeah, it's certainly, I think I always think that there's a difference, right, between school and education. And I think people mix those two things up too often. And my attitude to education was very different to my attitude to school. And there were some subjects which I absolutely loved, and I would read about them. So my economics teacher at A-level absolutely hated me because I was fascinated by economics, and I still am. And so I would be reading all these materials and way ahead of what he wanted to teach. And so when he was teaching, I just knew the answer straight away because I was, 10 chapters ahead, and he must have hated me. Absolutely hated
Wonder
me.
why.
Yeah, I know, a cocky little person. I'm not allowed to swear, am I? Because we're live. So
I won't worry about it. Nick does it all the time, and
that's good. Yeah,
we talk about this quite often. But when it streams to Facebook, so I have a couple of other screens open here. As you talk, obviously it's doing all the subtitles or the closed captions. But Facebook's really clever; it stars them out. We've done some testing, and
brilliant.
Yeah,
we've been a little bit careful with the words, of course. But yeah, don't worry about it because Facebook takes care of it. Well, the visual part anyway, not the audible part.
This is the real world. This is the real world for you. And that attitude, Jonny, for kind of that hunger for learning, certainly the subjects that you love. I know you're still a massive reader now, and as am I, right? Absolutely love consuming new knowledge, new takes on whatever the subject matter is that I'm focused on. And that passion comes through. Everything I know about Lab, the empire that you are creating, that love seems to be all the way through it. And I know you refer to it as a love of craft, and that passion for helping humanity and understanding human behavior. I think this is for me what sets you apart from, let's say, other agencies. Is you really get what's going on inside here, and is that always been the case? Have you morphed from, let's say, a more traditional agency to thinking actually we can be smarter than that?
Yeah, I think we started this journey almost a decade. I think about 8-9 years ago, and we were a relatively traditional agency, and we looked at sometimes you're in business, you've got to sit back and just go, what's really going on here? What's going on in our industry? What's going on in our business? What do we want to be? And I think sometimes you've got to have that kind of elevated kind of way of thinking about what you're doing. And we looked at the agency landscape, and we looked at our business, and we realized that, at the end of every communication is a human nervous system, right? And pretty much every agency is in the business of communication, whether it is a communications agency or a branding agency or an ad agency or creative or media or whatever, right? We're just communicating to people. Even digital agencies, which was the majority of our business, even a form that you put on a website, it's a communication, right? I'm saying, give me your information. Okay, here we go. It's an exchange of information, right? It's a communication. And so at the end of every communication is a human nervous system. And we just thought, well, actually, logically, wouldn't it be a good idea to know everything about the nervous system that's receiving these communications? Because then we'd be a little bit better at it. And that was the start. That was the trigger point where we went, yeah, probably right. And we looked at the world around us, and it was tiny, right? It was really tiny. The neuromarketing world had sprung up about sort of 10 years before. And, you know, but it was this really small world. We were going to like the Neuromarketing World Conference and there'd be 300 people there. You know, it was really strange how small this world was. The neuroscience world has obviously been around for a long time, sort of like 40s, 50s. But obviously, you know, neuroscience and neuromarketing are two slightly different things. And I think the world of neuromarketing brings in more of the kind of like, you know, suppositions and assumptions, whereas the world of neuroscience is very scientific. So we kind of wanted to look at the different sort of ways we could do that and really deep dive into it. And which is what we did. And we've gone through a hell of a journey over the last 8-9 years, however long it's been. It's really, you know, the journey of understanding human behavior and also what works and what doesn't, because we're seeing every agency in the world now talks about how, you know, they're brilliant, they're human centered, or you know, they're all experts in human behavior. I mean, look, anyone can read Nudge, right, and be an expert in behavioral economics these days, and that's totally cool, right? You know, it's brilliant. But yeah, we've really pushed the boundaries, and we've excluded a lot of technologies and a lot of theory from what you can really use. And we've worked out, and we've gone through every single tool you can imagine. And it's almost like a Swiss Army knife to us now. Whereas I see these businesses starting up everywhere, where it's like, you know, it's their core business and they're selling it like it's a solution to everything. You know, oh, we can do facial coding. And we can know exactly what people are thinking about and what their response is going to be, and then we can sell to them 1,000 times better. But it's just not true. You know, it's not actually real. In some cases, it is applicable, but in most, it's probably not. And that's the same with almost every technology in the world that we're in around human behavior. Same with the theory, right? It doesn't always apply. I still say, you know, you can have a team of the best neuroscientists and behavioral economists in a room with the most genius theory and testing and everything else, and you get one brilliant creative walk into a room and goes, why don't we just do this? And it's much better than anything they can do. So it's all, you've got to take it all with a pinch of salt. And I think we've matured as an agency group to really understand that and to use it as that, you know, a toolbox, but also to elevate it, to go, you know, what do we want to do it for? You know, I think most people do it so people can sell more stuff. And we're like, oh, okay, you know, like that's one reason. It seems to be the reason that everyone's hooked on understanding human behavior. I don't really get that. I mean, that was one thing that we looked at and gone, oh, okay, this is good. We can use it to sell more. But very quickly we went down the road of, well, how can we use it to kind of change humanity? And that's the journey we've been on for the last few years. Is how can we use what we know in much better ways? And if we can make it, like, if we can commercialize it and help industries and also help the world, then it's kind of like the holy trinity for us. You know, that's brilliant, isn't it? And I wish all businesses thought like that.
Yeah, and it's a life lesson, I think, that businesses should learn from, because lots of people, we spoke about this before on the show as well, lots of people will create a business because they are working for somebody, maybe, as an example. And, you know, they're doing a lot of the hard work. There's no ifs and buts about it. You know, a good team, they're all going to be working hard. And they kind of look at what they're selling and, oh, that's bringing in loads of money, but I'm only seeing a tiny proportion of that in my pay packet each week, each month, each year. I'm going to do this myself. So quite often when you ask a business owner, why are you doing it? Well, I want to be flexible and have my own hours and work when I want to work. And then on the flip side, I want to earn more money. I know I can earn more money. Ask them a year later, they're working harder than they've ever worked and they're earning less than they were earning. And lots of people do it. I think lots of people start a business sometimes, not always, sometimes for the wrong reasons. They don't think about the big picture. They think about the now. And I know one of the things that you like, Jonny, is having your foot one step into the future and looking at what potentially is coming up down the road as well. So tell a little bit more about that. You know, what does the future look like for you?
Tell us about the future, Jonny.
Yes.
Okay. Let me
pen and paper. What are the predictions? We're going to get writing them down. Do we
Do
win
you know
the
what,
World
David?
Cup? Do we win the Euros?
Yeah. Well, I've already placed my bet. No, obviously bet on England winning, 5-0 in the final, obviously. No, but I think just, what you're saying before, David, I think, there is something that I've realized doing a lot of advisory work for business. Now, I can talk for my industry because that's where I mainly operate. But it's really interesting when you start scratching the surface of what you said. There are a lot of people that have these kind of ambitions, and also, a lot of the purpose you're talking about. Really, people need to unpack that before they get going in business and what they're doing, because just going out to make more money or lifestyle. What I've found is that when I've asked people, what are your ambitions, and they ultimately boil down to, I want to go and make loads of money. That's totally cool. But I also ask them, what do you want to spend it on? And they sort of go, I don't really know. And that also interests me. When they say, I want a big house and all the rest of it, I'm like, do you know anyone with a big house? They're like, well, yeah, I guess so. Like, have you ever spoken to them about what a hassle it is owning a big house? And it becomes like, 30% of your time to manage that bloody thing, and they go, oh, actually, that's a good point. I don't really want a massive house, but just something comfortable. And I'm like, okay, cool. But you boil it down to their real, there's no real needs there to go out and be some massive success. It's normally fears, right? It's like, really, it comes down to is like, I want security, I want this, I want that, and for most people it probably is. And it's really interesting because I do a lot of work to help business owners, and one of the things I can help them with the most is removing a lot of their imposed or industry or world imposed attitude to being super successful, because it's this growth mentality. Everyone's got to be growing the whole time, and if you're not growing, you're dying. Look, there can be some truth to that. I'm sure every business when it starts wants to grow a bit, right? But you mentioned earlier, like lifestyle. I think the choice and all the rest of it. So many people are in business because they just want a better lifestyle. Yet when you speak to them and say, what are you going for? They talk about these massive growth ambitions. And frankly, there's a real discrepancy of the narrative coming out of people. And you know what? It's one of the biggest things, certainly in my industry, it's one of the biggest things I see that affects mental health is this immense pressure to always be talking like Tony Robbins and have this, Gary Vaynerchuk or whatever his name is, the person that I just skip every time I see him on social media. No offense to him. I'm sure he's got a great narrative. But I can't listen to that sort of stuff. It just kind of does my head in a little bit, because I think people need to understand a bit more realistically what they actually want and what they're prepared to give, because growth takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy, and that journey is full of problems. People have to use their willpower to force to a direction. And as we all know, willpower is just a non-existent thing. It's like willpower is a thing that's made up. Like either you have the will to do something or you don't. There's no kind of like, I'm going to force myself to do it. That's just exhausting. You're going to kill yourself doing that. If you can find like a real will, a real burning desire to do something, which is probably seated in your fears, most likely. That's where burning desires normally come from, is fears. What do I don't want? I want. What don't I don't want in life? There's double negative there. But ultimately, that's what you've got to think about. Is like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Right, I'm going to try and do something to fix that and go for it. And I think that changes a lot of people to kind of get that right mentality. Now I'm waffling, but back to your question: is what does the future hold? Right. I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and I think there is a change. The world has changed slightly. I think people's attitudes have changed. The amount of people I've spoken to who are professionals, business owners, or previously have been on a very ambitious journey. So many of them have changed their attitudes to life, and their lifestyle has changed. And I think that this pandemic has actually had an impact on how we see the world. And I think it's about time, right? Because we can't just all grow and all super successful and all the rest of it. So many people I know who really valued those ambitions of making loads of money and having the big house and a Sunseeker have changed completely and said, I don't want any of that. I just want a nice, peaceful life and to do the things I love and spend time with my family and friends and whatever. So I definitely think there's a bit of a change in the air of what the future holds, and I'm quite looking forward to that actually, because it will be less hype and more reality, some real conversation going on, which I always like. And I think the business, the business is growing well, right? So what does the future hold for me? My future is leading Lab Group, right, and building a business. And the intention of Lab Group is to grow organically and to buy other interesting agencies. And this is the theme I think that I have in my life, which is what is interesting. I see I looked at the landscape of agency groups and I obsessed about the M&A world for about 5 or 6 years before I got going. What I realized is a lot of groups actually are sort of CFO designed. It's more spreadsheet than it is ethos. And I thought, I understand why. I totally understand why. But one of the things I wanted to do was create a group which is a little bit more interesting than that. And the key thing we went out to do is to create a group which is a genuine alternative to the bigger agencies out there. Because I think people want that bigger, that sort of alternative to the big boys and girls. So that's what I did, and that's what we're doing. So we've started an agency during a pandemic. We also acquired an agency during the pandemic. We're acquiring an agency now, and we are hoping to really grow to an H2 and 2022 as well, to become a relatively decent sized group. We haven't got grand ambitions of being like a massive, NASDAQ listed, and don't visualize myself ringing a bell or making a speech about the world.
FTSE 250, that's fine, but
yeah, of course, yeah, that's the plan, yeah. But yeah, so that's really what the future holds for us.
So I think this is great to hear, mate, because there'll be a lot of businesses out there who are probably feeling that shift. And I know when I started my business, right, I had no idea about business. I just knew that I wanted to work for myself rather than someone else. And it was all those things that you said, probably the wrong reasons. I want to be wealthier. I want to have more time. I want to do all this. I want all those traditional trappings of what I thought running your own business looked like. And for a long time, that's what I was heading for. And it clearly didn't sit well for me because it didn't happen. Right. So it wasn't until I decided actually what I do want. I'm not worried about the money. I'm not worried about the big house. What I do want is great experiences, and I want to work with people that are fun. I want to have great fun doing what I love doing, and I absolutely love it. If I was rich, I'd do it for nothing. Okay, that's how much I love it. Yeah, I'm rich in life. and I noticed the same. Right? I noticed the same that shift in attitude. People have had time to think, actually, what do I really want? And chances are it's not to work myself into an early grave, for all the traditional trappings that might look good to other people, but realistically are a pain in the backside.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that.
And I see the stuff that you're doing, and it looks interesting. It looks fun, And I've been into the Soho office, and the vibe is fun, right? And there's energy, and bring that back, brilliant. And you've not stopped, you're not like you're thinking, it's the pandemic, I'll lick my wounds. It's what else are we going to do? What is new? And you've never kind of, as far as I've seen, you've never sat back and let the world happen around you. You've taken it by the balls and said, well, let's give this a go. And that was the same with the 4-day week, right? When you first talked about, well, let's explore what a 4-day week might look like. I think a lot of feedback was, you can't do that, right? How's that working out?
Yeah. Well,
before you answer that, Jonny,
go on.
Before you answer that, think about that. We're going to take a quick 10. It's going to give you 10 seconds to think about 4-day work week. We're going to have a quick ad break, and when we come back,
are we allowed an ad break, mate? Are we allowed an ad break?
Yeah. Of course we are. Look, don't worry about LinkedIn. They'll be fine about it. Look, we'll just do it anyway.
bloody marvellous, mate.
They won't even know it's there. They won't know it's
Let's
there.
upset LinkedIn with my blooming logo. Thanks very much. Yes, excellent. Let's test that. Yeah. You remember that LinkedIn Live account I used to have? Yeah.
We've got to try these things. Anyway, sorry. So look, the 4-day work week. Tell us more about it, Jonny, because it is now becoming reality. It started off in Scandinavia and stuff like that as well, and now some companies are trialing it here. And you've been doing it for a while, I understand.
Yeah, we're about 3 or 4 years in, I think, or 3 years in, something like that. I mean, yeah, I think, to what you're saying, Nick, I mean, for us, I guess we don't think the same as everybody else. I think it's too easy to click into habit. It's too easy to click into just conforming to what's there already, right? We've always thought a little bit outside the box, and it's not. We don't think like it because we want attention or let's just be different. We're not like sort of prima donnas or trying to be fashionable or anything like that. It's a case of trying to always work out what works best. And I think that's where the 4-day working week came from, because we were thinking about, different ways of working and how can we work better, and also, our vision at Lab is to create a world where everyone is free to do what they love, right? That's what motivates us, and that ethos permeates through everything, our values and our mission and everything else, right? And we were thinking, okay, so a vision without action is just a hallucination. We don't want to sit there just pretending that we've got this vision, so let's put it into action. And we were thinking about different ways to do that, and then we had a bank holiday weekend where it was lovely and it was sunny, and I think it was May, and I came back after 3 days and I properly disconnected, properly relaxed, and just gone, you actually need 3 days to properly disconnect from the business, from work. You really need 3 days. The first day is just catching up with all the crap, like dentist appointments, mowing the lawn and whatever it might be. Like there's a lot of unpaid labor that we have to do in our lives, which is work, right? But it's just not the traditional 9 to 5, I get paid for this stuff. But it's still work as a human being, right? You're still working, whether it's a tax return or whatever it might be, right? You are working. So you need at least a day to get all that stuff sorted and out the way. And then, during that time, you're still connected to the office and doing stuff. And then, thinking about work, and then normally, that's a Saturday. And then normally Sunday rolls around, and if you've got kids, you're full of, kid stuff. You're seeing people, you're doing a little bit of socializing. And then boom, Sunday night comes around and you're thinking about work again. And it's just not long enough. And so having that bank holiday weekend really kind of like hit me. It was like a bullet between the eyes. I was just like, dunk. And I was like, this is what we need every week. And so I went back into the leadership team and I said, guys, I reckon we should do a 3-day weekend and have a 4-day working week. And they all sort of just went, and they thought about it for a bit, and I kind of sold it to them. I said, look, this is our vision. This is what we want to do. Let's give people time back in their lives to do what they love, right? And we did, and we just went, okay, let's do it. And we framed it as an experiment, right? Because I think a lot of people panic about doing stuff like this, which is, counter to the norm. And we, but it's all about the framing and the spirit you go into these things with, right? And we were like, guys, we said to everyone in the business, we're going to do an experiment. We're going to do a 4-day working week. Those 4 days will be a bit busier, but what it means is, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll have more time to do what we love. And we tried it. In the first instance, we cocked it up actually, because we did some people off Monday, some people off Friday.
Remember?
And it didn't work because you can imagine those 3 days in the middle, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, were context switching, communication heavy, hectic nightmares, right? And that didn't work at all. So we all agreed to do Monday to Thursday a bit later, and that's worked, and it's worked ever since. And one of the things we want to do is people always say, oh, you can't have like a vision where you want to change the world, especially when you're a small business. And it's like, fair enough, good point. We're not explicitly going out. We're not specifically and literally going to change the entire world. That's not kind of what we want to do. But if we can, have a bit of an influence on it, then that'll be a great thing. And so we thought, it starts, it's very much like our world. We can influence our world, but also we can influence other people's worlds as well. And that kind of, if it's one person, that's the vision. If it's 1 million people or 100 million people, that's even better. And what happened was that this 4-day working week was quite unique thinking, and there was a company over in New Zealand that were also doing it, and I started looking at these different businesses that might be doing it around the world, and I realized there were a few, and anyway, it kicked off, right? So we got incredible media coverage for it. We had the deputy editor of social affairs from the Guardian the Times, Sunday Times, come to our office and did a whole double-page spread on it in the Sunday Times. So we got like incredible press for it, and everyone loved it. But most importantly is that what we did was actually live our vision, and the amount of people that did cool stuff on their day off on Friday was incredible. We had one person go into a beauty pageant. She won Miss India UK, which was just amazing. Sorry, Miss India UK. We had another guy start a photography business, which has been really successful. It's all about sort of ecology and environmental photography. We're actually using his business now in our business. He still works for us, which is really cool. Other people did. We've got an amazing actress that works in our business, and she's gone off and she did some amazing theatre productions, which was just lovely to see. But there's just a queue of people who have gone out and done the things that they love. And, I think the thing is, everyone, tries to sort of say, if you love your work, you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah, I get that, right? And, we want to make work as fun as possible for people. But, when you compare your working life to, a hobby you're utterly passionate about, or your children or wife or husband or whoever you're with, I mean, it doesn't even compare. And, as we're seeing during the pandemic, people are reassessing their lives of what really matters to them. And that's what we wanted to give people, and we did, and it's still going strong now. But we started influencing other businesses, and Reflect Digital, who I was in contact with, they did a 4-day working week, and then they became our first acquisition into the Lab Group, which was amazing. So it was just, again, alignment of ethos and culture, which was fantastic, and it's worked incredibly well. And those guys are amazing. And other people started getting in contact. Huge amounts of people got in contact with me about that. I had phone calls from so many consultants that were being asked to look at 4-day working weeks for very big companies. And what was interesting about them is that they were almost looking for an excuse to say no, which I think, it's one of the benefits of being a smaller business is the agility to do stuff like that, and actually to have a spirit and a bit of vision, and almost be a little bit impulsive sometimes, follow your heart. And we were lucky to do that, but not many big businesses did it at all, really. But it will happen, I guarantee you. It's started, but other businesses will follow suit. We don't need to work as hard as we're working as people. We simply don't. All that's happening is the work we're putting in, all those extra hours over 30, 40 hours work every week. All it's doing is making us wealthy, and it's pumping up house prices. That's pretty much the only thing we're working for at the moment, is to buy a really expensive a set of bricks to live in. This doesn't make sense as a country, right? It does not make sense as a species. And these things will change over the next sort of 2 decades. I definitely see in my lifetime, work will become a much more optional thing, and the sooner the better. And it's nice to be part of that initial change, to say, we need a better world. We need to work in a better world. We need to look at work in a slightly different way. And yes, we are in a society of scarce resources, but we're not a million miles away from post-scarcity, which was one of the other things that I think about a lot. How would I act in a post-scarcity society? And that kind of influences my thinking quite heavily in terms of decision making, because if you can make decisions thinking in a different way, in the way life should be, then you can start dragging the world to that point. And that was very much part of it. I mean, obviously, I watched Star Trek, when I was a kid, and I love The Next Generation and that kind of classic post-scarcity kind of slightly communist society really interested me in terms of its, how it worked and all the rest of it. Also influenced me in terms of technology as well, actually. Unsurprisingly, things like iPads, where do they come from? They come from creative genius, and someone goes, well, we actually build that in real life. Why not do the same thing with society? It's a strong influence. So yeah. That's where we got with 4-day working week. But just last point on that actually is that during the pandemic, it's changed, and there's been a lot more flexible working. It's very strange because I think everyone talks about flexible working now is just the way forward, and a 4-day working week is cool. But actually, I see people popping up all over the place or any time, and I think what's happened is that people kind of work when they want to work and when they're feeling like, they've got energy and passion to put into something. And I prefer people working 20 hours a week, super passionately and excited about something, than 40 hours a week grinding out something and not being that, that's really where we need to get to. And I see people pop up at the weekend sometime and, Slack starts going wild with a conversation about something. And I'm like, cool, that's fine, as long as people aren't working, burning themselves out. I don't care when people are online or offline. It's kind of changed a little bit, so almost like the 4-day working week is almost old news in terms of how we're going to go forward. So we do still do it, but I do think that will change in the next couple of years too.
People are agreeing with you, Jonny. Donna's put very refreshing to hear, Jonny. Totally up for a 4-day week. It's all about life work balance. Get that right, and all the good stuff will follow. I wonder how many people will adapt the 4-day work week going forwards. And as you say, the working from home, the flexibility of hours. At the moment, lots of businesses are saying work from home. That's absolutely fine. The big brands that we hear every day are taking that route. How long will it be, though, before they retract that and say, well, actually, your contract states that you work from this office, this location, pandemic's gone, normality's restored, come back. We want you back in the office. We want that water cooler chat. We want you around the boardroom table. We want you to interact. I wonder how long it'll be before things do go back to what was the norm. Or will it?
Well, honestly,
in the future?
I personally think the days of policy and command and control for organizations is over. It will exist going forward, I'm sure, but only to the point where they start, losing staff at a very, very high rate. When we talked about what our policy is, we sat down as a leadership team and started talking about policy and what should we do and what should our policy be about working. And we were pretty chilled about it. It's just like, look, if people want to work from home, they can work from home. If they want to work in the office, we can sort it out and make sure it's safe, right? So that was pretty much what we did. But actually, one of the things we kind of crystallized was that ultimately where we need to get to is a point where the only policy around where you work and when you work is that there's no policy. That should be the only policy. And people can do what they need to do. Ultimately, I think so many businesses have been forced into firstly trusting people, because it's amazing how many businesses don't trust people to actually do their work. But secondly, is outcome focus. If you are an outcome focused business where the outputs are clear and they will have visibility, and you don't need to worry anyway. It's not about trust. You don't need to trust if you're just saying that this is the outcome and this is the output is expected. Off you go, and if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, well, it's gone wrong, and all of a sudden you don't need to even think about trust anymore. But it is amazing how much trust is lacking in businesses, and it's not really. It boggles my mind, because you employ someone to do a job, and then you don't trust them to do it. I'm like, you just cocked up the recruitment process then, didn't you? You should only recruit people you trust, which is bizarre to me. It's almost like by not trusting someone, you're almost insulting your own ability to recruit and train people, which I don't understand that. But I see the behavior all the time. That lack of trust, it kind of stinks, and it's what needs to happen. We need to change.
I think this is music to my ears, right? Trust, massively important. I find, I seem to sense that in our very digitally driven world, trust is seeping away, right? It's difficult to know if that text message is real, that email is real. Let's say the stuff that I'm being advertised actually does what it really says it does, or those reviews are from real people. I think trust, definitely in your industry, must be a bit of a battle. Surely, are audiences becoming more cynical as we grow up and information and knowledge is everywhere?
I think so, and I think it's it's now the the last decade we've seen this kind of the kind of theme, the fashion has been about purpose, right? Every business is talking about purpose. We've got such a big purpose. Look at us, we're great. We really care about the world, and that has been overdone so much now that people know it's just part of the marketing mix, right? It's part of what you've got to say as a brand. And as a result, I think we've seen all sorts of clangers, right, where people just clearly aren't living what they're saying. And I think now the next decade, or certainly this decade, it's the decade of authenticity. And this is what we need. We need truly authentic decision making from shareholders, leadership teams, right the way through the business, and to actually live what they're doing. Businesses without a true and authentic purpose, I honestly don't believe will survive in the future, because people are absolutely becoming more insistent on it. There is so much choice, and from a digital point of view, you can access anything pretty much anywhere, any business. If you're not digitally connected, then it's it's pretty much game over anyway. But I think the truth is that people want more from a product or service, and again, last decade everyone was talking about experiences, and that's true. It's memorable, emotional experiences. I don't want to just have a transactional relationship anymore. But I will not have that experience. I will not engage with a brand that isn't doing something that aligns with my thinking. And I think this is where I think brands can be extremely powerful, in term and show leadership in terms of what they're doing, and loads of that is coming out in terms of policy decisions and support. And there are brands that have made some very, very big statements around, people like when, Black Lives Matters, really kind of came to life. The whole sort of taking the knee thing, and sports brands saying, no, we support this. And other people saying, well, we don't, I'm not going to buy your brand again. And brands turning around going, fine, we don't want people like you buying our brand. So, great. Like, how authentic is that? I love that. It's not talking about bottom line anymore. It's talking about, rather than the bottom line of profit and money, it's the bottom line of what really matters. It's about ethos and society. And that's the new bottom line. And I love that. I mean, it's interesting because the world has woken up to that. And you look at things like, sustainability, obviously ESG has become a massive part of any listed business now, of any business actually, and it's getting more and more intense in terms of ESG reporting requirements and how you do that. And we started a business on that basis. We started a communication business. It's all about helping brands to communicate authentically around their sustainability plans, because brands are really bad at communicating about sustainability. They put out bullshit pledges about in 2100 we will no longer use plastic. Okay, thanks for that. In the meantime, my child's dying of plastic pollution. It's like, come on, you've got to do more than that. And brands really are. I think people realize now that people will not invest in businesses that are harming the world, or don't have a truly authentic purpose that's going to change things. And we're seeing that, and we're helping a lot of brands to genuinely transform and communicate in new ways, but also do it authentically. And what's interesting about that is that it's amazing how whereas business can influence society, it's amazing how communications can actually influence business policy. Because one of the nice things about being an agency is more about the audience than the customers do most of the time. So when you've got that understanding of truly how people are feeling and what they're really saying about your brand and what they really think about the world, you say, by the way, don't say that because everyone will hate it. And they go, why is that? It was because of this reason. You should say this instead. But that's not a policy. Well, it kind of needs to be. All of a sudden, you're not communications experts, you're consultants at that point. So it's quite fun, actually, to get involved with this stuff and start, throwing some tangible curveballs at brands to really make them think a little bit more, and to just challenge them, really. And that's kind of like what's really exciting me at the moment, is that ability to have influence on bigger brands.
Yeah, Jonny, I'm really sorry. It's been great, and I reckon if we had another hour of conversation time, we could be talking forever. It's been fantastic having you on the show today for an extended version and finding out more about your businesses, what you do. So people can reach out, they can get in touch with you with even, the lab.co.uk if they want to find out more about Jonny Tooze and what you do and how you do it. It really leaves. Well, I'm going to let Nick say that because, I know you two have got a relationship there. It's only fair that Nick probably just wraps up and thanks you for being here today.
Well, mate, thank you ever so much for your time. Hugely precious. I totally agree. We are in the decade of authenticity. A lot of people talk about it. Very few people actually live and breathe it. But you are one of those, my friend. It's a joy to have an unscripted conversation with you and just explore some of the key things that all businesses should be thinking about. So thank you very much indeed. I know you've got a big weekend to prepare for. And if it's all right with you, we'd love to have you back on the show at some point soon. No doubt the feedback will be get Jonny on. Get Dave and Nick off, get Jonny on, because the guy talks a lot of sense. So thank you very much, Jonny. It's been
Thank you very much for having me, David. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thanks, Jonny. Enjoy your 40th birthday parties.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to. Just after my hair transplant, I'll go and have a birthday party. Thank you, guys. Have a lovely day.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Well, Nick, we are coming. Well, we've actually pretty overrun today, but it's worth overrunning. But before we do go, Nick, what a great show and great to have Jonny here. But we were talking a few weeks ago about business awards, and we were talking about the Novo Business Awards, which closes today at 5:00. So if you want to enter that, today is the deadline. And you were saying, Nick, you felt a little bit left out when myself and James were in the studio, that you'd never had a business award or an award. And, James felt for you. So what he did, he has come up with your own awards. And here it is. On behalf of James O'Rourke, I'm presenting this award to Mr. Nick Luby. And there it is, winner of the 2021 Best Nick of the Business Breakfast Show. And look, it's officially signed by Nick Clegg and Nicolas Cage as well.
Mate, I'm in the club. I'm in the club. Best Nick on the breakfast show.
So it's been a great show. You're now award winning. I noticed actually we didn't pop this up earlier, but Glenys Chatterley, a good friend that we both know, has been on one of the very early shows. But she says, stop playing with your food and just eat them. That's talking about the M&M's building Guinness Book of Records, which I'm going to have a play with. I am going to do that and see if I can build a big tower out of M&M's. I need to go and buy some. But the trouble is I can't get out because I'm isolating for 10 days.
10 days, man. 10 days.
So, yeah, after 10 days, or maybe I'll have to get a Tesco's home delivery just with some M&Ms so I can have a play. But that's it, Nick. We've reached the end of the show. We've overrun by a few minutes, but it was well worth it having, Jonny on the show and hearing the story and the great things that they are achieving.
It's been awesome, mate. Awesome. Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's, in fact, so much so, let's do it again next week.
What a great idea. And someone's put here, truly well deserved. Well, thank you very much. It was a great show. Glad you enjoyed it as well.
Whatever they're talking about, we'll take it.
Whatever they're talking about, yeah, that's it. If you do want to come on the show, do drop us an email. Do let us know. Get in touch. We'd be delighted to hear from you. And, of course, don't forget, we're back here next Thursday from 8 a.m. Till 9 a.m. or maybe a few minutes afterwards. That's the lovely thing about our stream. We're in control. We're not the BBC or the ITV. We turn it off when we feel it's time and appropriate. But anyway, till next week. Bye-bye from me.
Cheerio.